Hello, hello, hello. Welcome all 0 viewers to my first stream. Really excited to try this Twitch thing out for the first time. I thought I would start things off by just doing like a little introduction of myself. Right now I still got my stream starting soon thing open while I'm getting everything all set up, but I'm probably going to post this to YouTube, so anyone who joins the channel later will be able to watch it, check things out, be like, oh, this is who this streamer is, this is what they're getting into, and then decide whether or not to stick around or bail out immediately upon viewing it. So this will be pretty cool. This is my first time doing it. I have massive anxiety. It feels like I'm doing radio right now, which is kind of exciting because I haven't done radio work in a hot minute, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, just gonna get my webcam set up and then jump on in. And I think we're good to go. Hello, everyone. And by everyone, I mean I'm talking to no one currently, so that's kind of exciting. Just getting to talk to myself in my room. So I thought I would start things off by just doing a very sincere an apology. Everyone really likes apology videos, so I just thought I would start out by sincerely apologizing for anyone coming to this channel for what they're probably about to witness, because I've never done this before. So that's pretty cool. I hope my mic settings are okay. As things go on, I'll keep figuring things out and adjusting and fiddling around. So I thought that I'd start this off by just answering some questions from some of my Twitter followers, and by Twitter followers I mean I don't have a Twitter. So these are just questions I've prepared in order to kind of like figure out how to approach the whole thing of introducing myself, the who are you, like that's kind of like a huge existential question. So let's start things off a little simple here. So hey, my name on Twitch is Quirk and Quill, which is also my name on Etsy, but my actual name is Sam. So for people who are wondering like pronouns and stuff like that, I pretty much will accept anything like he, him, she, her, they, them. Doesn't really matter to me as long as people address me with respect. If you're ever confused, you just say Sam, or some people like to refer to like streamers by like their Twitch titles and stuff like that. So I guess if you were to pick any of the three words that are in the title, Quirk and Quill, probably don't want to just refer to me as and. Going as Quill, that's kind of the most similar to an acceptable like character name. So I guess I'll accept that. But otherwise, you can always just be like, "Hey Sam, what's up?" and just refer to me that way. Yeah. So that's just kind of who I am, but I guess to better answer the question of who, which is such a great question, just kind of like, yeah. So I'm Sam. I've grown up in Alaska for 25 years of my 27 years of life, which is pretty like, yeah, I'm Alaskan, great, so exciting, ooh, mountains, stuff like that. But I just recently transferred or transplanted or like I live in Indiana now at the moment. I've been living here for literally a week. So to kind of like usher in the big move and stuff, I thought I finally had like space and stuff in my new room to get a Twitch setup going. So I'd try this thing out, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's who I am. But as for like questions of like, what do you do? Like, who really are you? What are your interests and stuff like that? Obviously, as like pretty much everyone on Twitch goes, it's like my main interest. Video games is a pretty big one. People who check out my stuff on Etsy will also know that I'm kind of like a freelance or like self-published writer. I mostly do play scripts, so like for theater. I do have screenplays and like film scripts as well because of my background in film, but it's kind of hard to sell that stuff without producing it, because it's like I guess you could do that if you have more access to like Hollywood or like indie productions and stuff, but I'm so like hands-on when it comes to that stuff that I'm kind of scared to give the reins over to anyone that I don't really know or trust with any of my film work. So, but yeah, so I write. I've also started dabbling in poetry this year as a result of like going through the pandemic and stuff and just trying out new stuff and continue to develop my like voice as a creative artist. Um, so yeah, I've been getting big into poetry. I self-published a poetry collection called Negative 50. If anyone wants to check it out and read some like depressing poetry, go for it. Yeah. um, Currently, if you're wondering like what do I do as far as like employment goes, I'm currently unemployed as a result of the pandemic. So that's another big inciting thing to make me be like, oh, let's give this Twitch thing a shot. Like, why not? Like, have something fun to do during this time. Plus, everyone like the theater and film industries and just all over the world is transitioning into more digital forms of communication and media. So, might as well learn it. Why not? Um, if you have questions about like my educational background and stuff, kind of like that Cotton Eye Joe, like where do you come from, where do you go kind of question. Basically, um, I got education through the college up in Alaska, the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I actually currently have 3 Bachelor of Art degrees, which is kind of crazy because it's like I don't know, people like as I'm talking to family and stuff, they're like, "Oh, you're so educated," but it's like, "Mama, I'm like so far from being like the enlightened one, like Gandhi or anything like that." So, like for me, it's mostly like my educational background is in psychology, theater, film, and then I also minored in music. So I have degrees in each of those 3 fields, and to kind of summarize like what I've learned, like what I've taken to heart from all of that, I started in psychology as a way of like understanding more about other people and myself as a means of like understanding my depression. So what I got out of psychology is like I don't know, more like internal understanding, but also like a great deep sadness. So that's like an exciting, thrilling thing to develop. From theater, I was like thinking about this earlier as I was taking a shower, and I was like, I feel like the second anyone declares like, "Oh, I'm kind of interested in theater," or like, "I think I'm a theater kid," or when they like hit play on the first episode of Glee, at that moment somewhere in the world, like Born to Die by Lana Del Rey starts playing and it becomes like an It Follows situation where she immediately beelines for you and her progress is determined by how far you take it seriously as a BA and BFA. And at the end of it, she catches up to you and you're like, you're face to face with her and you understand like I've made a grave grave decision. But I don't know. Theater for me, it was kind of like started as a way of like learning more about acting and just kind of I don't know, exploring myself in terms of performance, but also just as a way of using acting to understand characters, to understand people as a branch of psychology. So my approach to acting is less so about like spotlight, it's all me kind of stuff, and more of like, oh, I think this is kind of cool as a way of exploring like writing and performance as understanding and kind of empathy and stuff like that. So I think that's fascinating. And then from acting, I moved into writing theater because it's like, uh, it's just exciting being able to create your own work as a way of like ensuring your creative vision continuing. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'll do writing. And then from writing theater, turned into writing film because film's cool because you actually get to have recordings of everything. Can't wait to have a recording of this so I can watch back and be like, oh man, he's talking really fast. That's social anxiety. um, but yeah, from film, I pretty much learned that I'm gonna be in blood debt for to the Adobe subscription fees for the rest of my life. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. Oh, and for my minor of music, I learned like I went in to learn more about musical composition and voice and just music theory in general because it's like I'm listening to stuff, but I don't really understand how people got there or what they're doing. So I was like, let's learn more about that. So went into that, and what I learned is I'm super pitchy. Still love music, but like still gotta learn how to do it. I have a bunch of instruments though, but learning them, having them, 2 different things. We'll get there. Yeah. Another question I wrote down here is like over the course of like work on this Twitch channel and having my webcam, you'll notice that like I'll probably wear a bunch of weird stuff. It's pretty normal just wearing shorts because it's hot out, even though it's like supposed to be approaching like winter. So that's kind of weird, but mama, that's climate change. But usually I wear stuff from like thrift stores and just wear stuff that's very agendered or non-gendered because I identify as non-binary. So I just kind of wear whatever. So you'll probably see me wear some weird stuff, and at any moment, if you're like, "Who are you wearing for the fall 2020 collection?" I'll be like, "Haha, thrift store." So yeah. And then my final question here that I wrote for myself. Great question from Sam, long-time listener, long-time fan, is just what are my plans for streaming? So as I've been thinking about approaching this whole thing, like obviously like first thought is like, ooh, I could stream video games as an extension of just having fun playing them. But going further with that, I could also do like poetry readings on here. I could do like, I don't know. I'm also like talking a lot with my hands because I have like a background like doing dance and stuff, so I just like to wiggle. But I don't know if I'm ever gonna dance on stream, but if people are interested in that, I'll work up the confidence to figure that out. But I could always like stream like Dance Dance Revolution. I need to get a dance pad again, but I used to have soft pads and they all broke, and that was rest in peace, sadness. But yeah, so I was thinking I could use this as like writing. I could do this for like film stuff. I could share some of that stuff through this if people are interested in any of the things I've edited or made. And also I can just have fun with the video games. Woo! So kind of thrilled about that. The first game I was like considering streaming, I was like really torn between going through like all the games that I love that were like part of my childhood because nostalgia, super powerful, great force in existence. So I was like approaching it, and I remembered as I was unpacking all my stuff moving here that I could hook my GameCube back up again. And there's a game called Lost Kingdoms, and Lost Kingdoms 2. They made a sequel, and I recently rediscovered that they were made by the same developers that did Dark Souls by From Software. I was like, that's pretty interesting because I love the Dark Souls games and Demon Souls and all that. But Lost Kingdoms is a really weird game that I used to play a lot. So I was torn between that. And then over the course of last week, I ended up replaying and beating Lost Kingdoms 1. So starting fresh on Lost Kingdoms 2, and I thought that would be a good way to start this thing off right, hopefully. But the other game I was really, well, two other games I was really considering streaming, and I'll get to them in the future, is Ace of Seafood, the greatest action underwater fish fighting shooting lasers game of all time. That's such a top title for it to hold as the premier and only game of that genre. But Ace of Seafood, super fun. And then otherwise, I was thinking about approaching Final Fantasy X again because even though I've done so many playthroughs of Final Fantasy X, every time I get to the end of the game, I have this problem where I just like look at what's ahead of me and I'm just kind of like, not interested, and then I shut it off, and then I come back 3 months later and start a new playthrough and then get to the same point and then shut it off again. So I've played it like 10 times, if not way more. But oh yeah, 10 times. Haha, Final Fantasy 10. I'm so funny. But never beaten it. So with all the remasters and stuff, and the fact that I have my capture cards in now, might approach those in the future. So I have like a whole collection of video games, and I'll keep coming up with ideas of like what to stream, but I feel like I've been blathering enough, so I'll start getting things set up for Lost Kingdoms 2. But for now, I'll go to my little transitional slide that I made to show off my prowess as a graphic designer designing a graphic. So enjoy that, and I'll shut up for a bit. So yeah, just anyone who views this, thanks for coming to the channel, checking it out, and I hope you enjoy any of what I do. So gonna be pretty chill here, I think. But yeah, I'll probably take a break for a bit, and then depending on if I can get things set up or not, it might take me a little bit to figure it all out, and then I'll start Lost Kingdoms 2. So thanks again, and thanks for tuning in.